Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. Hey, before we get started on today's episode, I want to share two opportunities that are on Of the West right now. If you are looking for something in the livestock, equipment, or equine sectors of the industry, then this might be right up your alley. Over the last few months, we have been working with the American Society of Agriculture Appraisers and the American Society of Equine Appraisers to get more people interested in becoming equine, livestock, and equipment appraisers. The role of an appraiser is somebody who provides valuations as they're needed for bank appraisals, attorney and litigation appraisals, accountant appraisals, tax purposes, insurance appraisals, and government entity appraisals like for the IRS or USDA, that type of thing. As an appraiser, you have the stability and flexibility that comes with owning your own business. So you can work part-time, full-time, as much as you like, as little as you like. You can make it a side hustle. You don't actually work for the American Society of Agriculture or Equine Appraisers. They're just simply the organization that you join to become a qualified industry appraiser. You work for yourself. Regardless of if you're interested in becoming an equine appraiser, a livestock appraiser, or an equipment appraiser, you do have to have at least 5 years of experience in that specific sector of the industry. If you're interested in learning more, you can go to ofthewest.co and search for appraiser, and those two opportunities will come right up. Or you can grab the link to each of those in our show notes because we made them really easy for you guys to grab. But either way, this is a really great opportunity. And like I said, it's something that you can do part-time, full-time. You can do it as a side hustle. There's full flexibility, which is really important for those of us who live in rural America and who have ag and Western operations or obligations that we also have to work around. Like I said, if you're interested in learning more, you can go to our website or you can grab the link in our show notes. And hopefully that's something you guys are interested in. Well, hello, you guys. Welcome to this week's episode of Leaders of the West. Today we are sitting down with Natalie McFarland, the founder and president of McFarland Productions. I'm really looking forward to sharing this conversation with you guys for a couple of different reasons. One, Natalie is somebody who I really look up to. She has built an incredible business in McFarland Productions. They are a full-service marketing agency. They focus heavily on video production and photography. They produce films. They are incredibly talented at what they do. And I have a lot of respect for Natalie in what she has created and just her dedication to, I don't want to say perfection, but the products that she produces are bar none. And that says a lot about her and her team and the business that she has built. So I'm looking forward to sharing that aspect of you. But I guess to give you guys a little bit more of a backstory about Natalie, she officially established McFarland Productions in 2014, so 10 years ago. And it has continued to rapidly grow since then. Her passion and her focus has really always remained the same in telling stories and building communities that surround the businesses and brands and organizations of the Western and agriculture industries. So obviously she is an incredible fit, not only for this podcast, but just as somebody you guys are going to be able to relate to. Her love of Western culture. Again, I just love Natalie and all that she has created. But the other reason that I'm really excited about this conversation is because in our recent launch of the directory, I know that a lot of our listeners have creative-based businesses. So a lot of you guys are photographers, videographers, maybe you're journalists or you do some social media management and you're constantly looking to grow your skills and what it is that you're doing and also wondering, well, how can I grow past just me? How can I add in people and how can I scale my team? And so this is going to be a really great conversation for those of you who are interested in doing just that. But let's just get right to it. Here we are, Natalie McFarland. Let's do this. Natalie, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I gave your intro ahead of us recording this. So to kick things off, let's start by having you tell us a little bit about where you're from, your upbringing, how you got into what it is that you do, and where you guys are at in your career now.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Roseburg, Oregon, just smaller town, not so super small, but a smaller town in Western Oregon. We're kind of the last true agricultural holdout on the west side of the Cascades. So we like to call it home and we're proud of it. But we're south of the Willamette Valley. So our area does a whole lot of, cattle and sheep and hazelnuts and hay and that kind of thing. So my family has a small ranch outside of Roseburg, and we grow hay, and we lease some of the property to cattle. And then I grew up rodeoing and showing horses. So, 4-H, FFA, all those things were all part of my story. But yeah, grew up out here in
So
Roseburg.
you've always been an ag girl, is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've always, even before I had my own horses, when I was really young, I was obsessed with it anyway, and all of my friends and everything were part of it. And so I got to be part of it even in the early years. But we moved out to the ranch when I was 11. So it took us a little longer to get there. But once I was there, I was absolutely hooked. So.
So how did you get into photography, videography, and marketing as a whole?
I think I was like that kid that grew up with a camera in their hand, and my mom probably had to develop 3 billion rolls of the disposable cameras. I don't know, I wanted to shoot everything all the time, all my friends, all of my horses and animals, all of that. And then in middle school and through 4-H, they want you to do one of the still projects, non-livestock projects, right? And so of course I picked photography. So I started doing photography through 4-H. I was terrible, but I did pretty well as far as 4-H goes. There were some that went to state and things like that. I just loved it so much, and took pictures of my friends and some of the rodeos that were here, local to us. And then after high school, I spent all my graduation money on my first prosumer camera. And I wouldn't even call it a professional camera, but spent all my high school graduation money on that. And then really spent all of college putting myself through college using that camera. So I shot families and weddings and babies and everything that every photographer kind of starts out doing. But I also got to do things like help with branding projects for a local cutting horse trainer. So I did his whole rebrand. I built his website. I started his social media. I did photo and video for him all through college. And so the love for this really started in college, even though I was going to school to be a veterinarian. I didn't really take it very seriously. I just thought, who could make that a real job, right? Unless you're going to work for some large company in their marketing department, I didn't really see it as a possibility until I met our wedding photographer. So I had never met a photographer who was doing it full time until Angela Chenoweth is her name. She's now an ag teacher at a local high school, but she was doing it full time, and she was really kind of became a friend and a mentor to me. And I learned a ton from her and shot with her quite a few times before I finally said, I think this could be an actual thing. And so I was working full time for an engineering firm, started my business while I was still there. I had some amazing mentors between Angela as a photographer, but also my boss at Romtech was absolutely key into making, what our business model is today, what it is. And so in 2014, established the business, and kind of just been a whirlwind since then.
So you went from vet school, or going in with the intention of becoming a veterinarian, to working for an engineering firm, and now
Mhm.
owning your own marketing agency.
Y- Yep. My story certainly took a little wiggly path, but yeah, I actually have my bachelor's degree in pre-veterinary medicine, and I worked for 2 different vet hospitals as well as the teaching hospital at Oregon State. And so I had been in the veterinary offices and large animal and surgery quite a bit. And as much as I loved it, I loved the animals more than I loved the people. And so I wanted to treat animals. And unfortunately, the barrier in veterinary medicine is dollars, right? And so there's a whole lot less insurance and things like that. And so I had some experiences where I felt like I was making people happy and not helping animals as much as I would have liked. And so I decided that it wasn't for me long run, but I applied to the world's sketchiest Craigslist ad. This was when Craigslist was still a thing, right? The world's sketchiest Craigslist ad. It was in sales operations assistant, Glide, Oregon, email to apply. That was the entire thing. There was not any information about this company. And so I just threw my resume out there because my husband and I, well, we weren't quite married, but we were working on trying to get moved back, and we were getting married that summer and all of that. But we wanted to get back to Roseburg. And so I just applied because I'm just trying to find something in the Roseburg area that would work. End up getting there, and one of my childhood best friends' dad owns the company. And that was happenstance. I figured that out later on. I was hired before that, but it ended up being like one of the best jobs I ever had. And honestly, I learned so much from that job. It was maybe more valuable than my bachelor's degree to what I'm doing now, but it was incredible. I had an incredible boss and really great people to work with. And we worked with companies all over the country. So yeah, project management is where I ended up.
That is so funny because I feel the same way, and I have a business management degree, so it's not like my degree is very far off of what I do now, but everything that I've ever done, be it the most random happening, has absolutely played a part in where I am now. And I think a lot of people, they think, oh, I don't want to do that, or I want to say no to that because it's not on my vision, or it's not on my vision board, or it's not where I think I'm going to be. But man, I will tell you, I have learned more like in taking the scenic route that has really prepared me for where I am now.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like it's funny as you pick through like my past, either, rodeoing and riding horses, growing up on a ranch, friends that I had, 4-H, college degrees, even my vet med degree has come in, like pre-vet med degree has come in handy many times on many projects through McFarland Productions. Project management, and business model and all the business stuff that I got at RomTech, and then moving into my own, it all kind of added up to what we are now in kind of a weird roundabout way. But yeah.
Well, and especially on the project management side, because that is one thing, and I'm going to stereotype here, and I'm sure I'm going to get some flack for this, but usually when you're creative, the organizational side of things isn't always
drives me crazy.
But because you have this project management background, I can only imagine how crucial that is in what you do.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine like having to deal with contracting and bidding and understanding even payment plans and all of that stuff if I had just gone straight from freelancer in college to professional photographer only. And obviously probably wouldn't have done the full marketing thing at first, but without RomTech, like the project management piece, understanding like what a CRM is and what project management tools are and like how they work and how they will absolutely make you more efficient and a better business. And then how to write contracts, how to write bids, all of those things were things that I did at RomTech. So
I am right there with you. There is so much value there. Okay, so let's go back to 2014, the beginning of McFarland Productions. You guys recently celebrated 10 years in business.
10 years, yeah. The 10th of March, actually.
And I will tell you, in the last 10 years, I don't know that there has been an industry that has been disrupted more than marketing. So what did your business look like when you were just starting out?
So in the beginning, we focused majority on photo and video. We were doing some branding projects and some like logo designs, graphic design and that kind of thing. But the vast majority of the business was focusing on photo and video. So at the beginning of all of it, you kind of take whatever you can get. It was just me at first. We had a division of the company that we called McFarland Productions Weddings. In that career, we did over 100 weddings total. One of the summers, we did like 34 weddings, I think. It was a wild thing. While we loved the weddings while we were doing them, they became a little repetitive for us, and we weren't feeling like we were engaging with our customer as much as we would like to. And I really had a passion for the commercial side. We had picked up quite a few projects for small makers and business owners and things like that, and various events and things like that I really had a lot more passion for. So we transitioned out of weddings fairly quickly, but the weddings were a learning experience. I think you get stuck in a lot of situations with your camera that you're not necessarily controlling every piece of it, right? So it teaches you to be flexible. It also teaches you project management, definitely teaches you contracting, absolutely teaches you how to sell something, because as much as, maybe the maid of honor will come back to you or something like that, it's really unlikely. So every single person that you encounter, you're selling to. So You have to like prove that you're worth it every time. It's also a much different business model than commercial because it's a personal business, right? So it's an expense to somebody and not an investment. So that was, kind of a mind shift for me to be able to figure out how to better explain that to people and provide value and things like that. It's just a very different situation. But we did weddings. So we did that for quite a while. I had contractors who ended up working for me full time later. We picked up our first what we call retainer or ongoing projects for marketing in 2015. And so we worked with Wilkes Ranches for, I think, about 7 years. They're based out of Texas, but they've got ranches all over the U.S. They're a registered Angus producer, and they were really kind of our cornerstone sort of proof of concept for the marketing side. So we worked with them for quite a while. Pretty incredible people down there. They just made some shifts to their marketing and, kind of chose to go other directions. So while we're not working with them still today, we're still very good friends with all of them. They're good people down there. And they have an incredible Angus program. Early on, we picked up things like Pendleton Cattle Barons Weekend. That's an incredible event. We love that event and everybody there involved in it. We were involved with them for quite a while. Art of the Cowgirl was certainly, kind of a cornerstone piece for us to be able to be involved in the beginnings of Art of the Cowgirl. We actually started shooting for Tammy before she registered the business license. So that's pretty cool. Montana Silversmiths, we're still with them. They're amazing with them now. Still too doing a lot of work for them. We do a lot of work through French West Vaughn for Pendleton Whiskey. And so we love working with them. It's just kind of grown since then. I can't even name the number of people that we've been able to have the opportunity to get to know and work with. But it's really kind of snowballed from that first true business model proof of Wilkes Ranches to what we are now.
That is amazing. So I want to go back to the wedding side of things because you mentioned two key pieces that I had never actually considered before. But one, the difficulty that is getting new customers and not having repeat business, because you're right. Unless somebody is getting a divorce and they happened to love their first wedding photos so much that they're going to hire you again for another extravagant wedding. Like, I can't imagine that really ever happens.
And usually they don't want you because you remind them.
Yes, exactly. So, you have to consistently get new customers. And you're right. Unless somebody in the wedding party or maybe like a family member of the person who got married or a close friend.
There's certainly word of mouth and referral, but it's very different than the commercial side's word of mouth and referral.
And it is a very high dollar product that you are right.
Mm-hmm.
It is seen as an expense and not as an investment. If I am going to spend $3,000 or $4,000 on photos for my business, I know that I am going to make that money back, ideally, because I'm going to use it across all of our marketing channels. But when it comes to a wedding, you're not bringing you and your spouse any business by posting, pictures of you at the altar on Facebook. So it totally is seen as an expense, and people are much more
cautious.
Yeah, they're much more conservative when it comes to expenses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing with it too is that, as the photographer, or for example, if we did just photos for a wedding, right? We always shot in a team of 2 at a wedding. So it'd be me and a contractor. And between the initial call, the wedding scheduling, all of the planning that goes with it, because we did some kind of front end, help them out with the schedule, shot list kind of thing, the engagement session, all of the editing for the engagement session, the wedding, editing the wedding, delivering prints, all of that. When you added up all of that time, we spent roughly 100 hours per wedding. For photo only.
Holy cow.
So it's a lot of time commitment. And like most people don't, they see you for the 8 hours at the wedding day, right? Which is amazing. And you're stoked to be part of that. But 8 hours and 100 hours are very different. So conceptually, when someone's on, the bride and groom side, you're just here to push a button for 8 hours, right? So they just don't see all of that goes into it. But yeah, roughly 100 hours.
Holy cow. Okay, side note to all of our listeners. If you are somebody who is maybe getting married in the near future, and when you get those bids in your inbox and your jaw is on the floor, keep in mind there is a lot more time that goes into your photos. And also, maybe if you just had a wedding and you're waiting for that photographer to get you your photos and it feels like it's taken forever, trust me, there are a lot of other people on the list and they're trying to work through them as quickly as they can.
And when they get them done, if you give them time to get them done, they're going to be a lot prettier because they spent time going through every single one of those photos rather than, oh God, get these out.
Yeah, just
you
like
know?
putting a preset on all of them and kicking them out the door.
Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
so when you first started, did you specifically start with photo and videography? Was that really a thing in 2014?
Yeah, 20, I think we started doing video in, well, let's see. I was doing weddings as a freelancer through college, and I didn't really do video then. I want to say we started video maybe season of 2015. It was still early because it was before we brought on Wilkes Ranches, but I don't think I was doing it as a freelancer. I think that was a little later.
Okay, so you started with photography, and then how did you bring in the marketing side of things? Were you the one
Sure.
woman who did it all? Or at that point, did you realize, okay, I need to hire some other people to assist me in really like putting this package together?
But I certainly had some contractors along the way, other photographers, and I had a graphic designer for a little while, and I had an editor for photos for a while, but I really was doing a lot of it myself at first. I'm one of those people that loves everything, so like I want to understand it all. And so like I love graphic design, I love web design, I love photography and videography and email marketing, and like I just kind of can't keep my fingers out of all of it. And so of course we started small, right? Which is how it was manageable at first, was to be able to start with just a one or two customers doing those things as a whole. I left RomTech in January of 2018. And at the time, I think it was 4 retainer clients at the time when I left RomTech. And of course, a lot of like smaller one-off sort of projects. And I hired somebody in February of 2018. So it was really only like a month of being out on my own before I brought in another person. I had, again, RomTech was amazing and allowed me to adjust my schedule. And so I went down to 4 days a week, and they were very forgiving about my travel schedule and things like that. I literally could not describe to you a more ideal situation to be working for at the time. But when I left RomTech, you do the whole last day at RomTech Facebook post, and 2 of my customers saw it. And they called me and they said, we didn't even know you had a full-time job. So they thought that I was already doing that full-time, which felt like a compliment to me because that was my goal, was for them to never feel like they were a side hustle. I wanted them to feel like they were the main thing, regardless of when I was doing that work, right? So it worked out. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of a crazy time there. But marketing general. So I started doing graphic design even in college. I mentioned the cutting horse trainer here locally. I did his logo design. I built a website and I started his social media even in college. And then I had done a handful of other logos and things like that throughout college. And then it just kind of became natural once I was in business to start bringing on these other things of skill sets that I already sort of had and wanted to develop further. And so as we brought on more people, it gave us even more expertise in those fields. And so we've now got a team that does those things. It's certainly not just me. I think in summer of 18, I think we hired 2 more people. So there were 4 of us starting in summer of 2018. So grew quickly once I left RomTech.
And now in your business, how many people are employed by McFarland Productions versus using like subcontractor type employment?
Sure. So Kevin, my husband, actually came on in August of 2021. And so Kevin's with us. And then Stephanie Furlong has been with me for, I think, like 9 years. I was trying to look back the other day and I never found the answer to that, but I think she's been with me for 9 years. Scout Baker's been with us for almost 3, I think almost 3. And then Katie Connor has been with us for 4.5. We have a almost full-time contractor. We do a lot of work together, who is our web developer. So he does all technical web and server maintenance and that kind of thing. And then we have, kind of a group of camera operators that we use for larger projects, films, and like music festivals and stuff like that when we need more camera operators, or when we're doing something that we call full production. So when we're doing it more like a film crew, basically. We have 2 audio engineers that we work with and a few other audio engineers that will sometimes like sub in for one of them because we never run with less than 2 at a job when we bring them in for, large interviews or films and things like that. And they're audio knuckle busters. They're out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area and they're incredible. Tim Kimsey, I'm going to brag on him for just a second because he's one of the coolest people I ever met. I actually met him through Wilkes Ranches in 2015. So he was the lead audio engineer at the Wilkes' sound studio there in Cisco, Texas. But he's got an incredible resume. When you meet him, you would never know it, but he's the guy that was the sound producer or sound engineer on Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice.
Stop it.
Yeah. So he's like the coolest guy you've ever met. And like, unless you dig and like ask him a lot of questions, he's never going to tell you any of that. He's super humble and he's amazing. And he was a big part of the Prince of Egypt soundtrack. He's worked for like every metal band you can think of. He's incredible. He's live audio, music in studio, sound design, all of that. He's also a professor. He was a professor at a technical college in Fort Worth, and now he's a professor in Weatherford at their college there.
Wow.
So, yeah, he's incredible. So he and I together, usually if we're doing a film, like I'll be the director of photography and general direction, and then he'll be the sound director. So we work really well side by side, and he's pretty incredible.
That is so cool. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So oftentimes when you're doing work for other people, you naturally don't do it for yourself. So I think of my cosmetologist, Kelsey. If you're listening to this, don't get mad at me. But anytime I go to get my hair done, she always tells me how she's been so busy doing her client's hair that she hasn't gotten with one of the girls in the salon to get her own hair done. I've seen that firsthand on the marketing agency side of things. You're so busy marketing for other people's businesses that you don't necessarily make time to market for your own business because you think, oh, I could make money by helping this person versus the idea of you're investing in yourself. And that's a little bit harder to stomach sometimes because it's not directly bringing cash in. But it absolutely brings it in the long run. So how do you guys set aside time in your own business to ensure that you guys are giving it the resources that it needs instead of just worrying about your clients?
Your cosmetologist and I would be friends because it is tough to make your own time, to work for yourself. It's the mechanic whose pickups are all broke down theory.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, I mean, I totally resonate with that. And we have to sort of make time for ourselves to be able to do that, which is difficult to do when you've got all these other pressing deadlines and releases and things like that. But basically what we found and really what our theory is in-house is that it's really not about us anyway. So the job of a marketing agency is to be a part of your customers' teams and to help support them in any means necessary to the fullest extent. Like our job is really to tell their stories, not our own. So while we do things like this, like podcasts and things like that, I like chatting business with people. So like I love getting on podcasts. But while we do things like this and we'll do small things for like our 10-year anniversary, and we're planning on doing kind of something larger at the NFR for our 10-year, we'll do little things like that. But really our job is to tell our customers stories. So what we usually do for marketing is we just keep doing that, right? So we very rarely talk about ourselves. We try not to talk about ourselves as much as possible. And for a while there, we've done little series, like we did a Team Tuesday deal where we recorded all in one day and then we like broke it up over, 4 or 5 months, something like that, of little snippets of the team. But the vast majority of our content, the vast majority of our marketing is still in support and for our customers. So most of our push is really pushing them.
Well, and two, the content that you create for your customers, then when you're able to share that, it really speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It certainly does. And we feel very fortunate every time we get invited into somebody's business or on someone's ranch or in someone's event, because we are a very invested team. And all of us, when the customer is doing something, releasing something or some new thing is coming out or whatever, it's our release, not their release that we're supporting, right? So we get very invested. And so we feel just as much pride in each release and each development and each new piece of content, in each, new release of their website, whatever it is, we feel just as invested in that as they do. And we hope that they feel that we are their team. We are so often our customers' friends and vice versa. So we just love that about this industry.
Oh, I love that. Okay, because so much has changed in the last 10 years. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned?
You know, a lot has changed from the technical standpoint, right? Platforms have changed, algorithms have changed. All of that stuff is very frustrating. But the reality of the thing is that marketing really hasn't changed. Even since the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, all the way up to now, the real point of marketing is telling the stories about your customers, telling the stories about your customers' customers, and building community. That's really the point, right? So no matter what platform you're doing that on, no matter what, facet it's in, if it's in-person marketing, print marketing, digital marketing, social media, website design, any of that, if you just keep in mind that the whole thing is who you're for, not what you are, and also how can I resonate within a community and how can I legitimately have real connections with the people that are like-minded and are likely those customers of my customer, right? As a marketing agency, if we can connect with people and we can tell the good stories, then we're doing our job. So even though platforms change, the theory doesn't.
Oh, yes. Okay, tip time. What's the biggest mistake that you see people or companies making in the world of marketing, photography, videography, and how can people avoid it? Like, what is your pet peeve, if you will?
I'm probably going to make some enemies here. It's not about you. I think when marketers, photographers, videographers go into this thinking I'm going to be a famous photographer or famous videographer, that's not the point. It's not about you. It's about the people that you're helping and how you're helping them reach the people they're helping. So if you go into this worried about all the acumen and accolades and recognition that you can get within the industry for yourself, you're doing it wrong. You should be concerned about your customers getting that recognition and accolades and all of that. So you'll never see in a contract for us or any kind of agreement with us, we will never require you to give us photo credit. If that's done, that's because the customer wanted to do that. We will not require it ever because it's not about us. It's about the customer.
I love that you talked about this because I live by Donald Miller's story brand principle, which is where so many businesses make themselves the hero of the story in their marketing. And really, you are just the guide. Your customer is the hero. It's just like a movie, right? It's not about the narrator. The narrator is just telling the story. Your customer is the hero, and you are the guide that's going to get them there. And if you are really able to simplify that and tell people how your company is able to help them and allow them to be the hero of their story, that is what is going to resonate on the marketing side of things. And you obviously hit that spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other example that I like to use when I'm explaining this to especially young photographers, it seems like this is kind of a difficult concept. Like, how do I make them give me photo credit is always like a question that I get from young photographers, very new photographers. And what the example I usually use is when you walk down Las Vegas, do you see the architect's name plastered on the side of the MGM Grand? You don't. Can I find that out? Yeah, I'm sure I could Google search my way to figure out who designed the MGM Grand. So the point is that the MGM Grand is magnificent in and of itself, and it is an architectural feat in and of itself. But you will not see the architect requiring credit on the side of that building. So it's really that the MGM, like you're saying, is the hero of their own story. Everybody knows it as the MGM. They don't know it as whatever the architect, I should probably know who the architect is, but whatever the architect's name is, MGM Grand.
Oh, I love that analogy. That is perfect. Okay, I'm going to have to use that in the future. Okay,
That's not to say you can't be excited about your wins, right? Absolutely be excited about your wins. You must celebrate your wins as a company, but remember that you're winning for your customer. You're not winning just for yourself.
I like that a lot. Okay, let's get into the rapid fire round. What's the best piece of business or personal advice that you've ever been given?
I'm going to go back to my mentor at RomTech. He said there's 3 things that make somebody successful. And if they have these qualities, they're going to make it. It's an I'll show you attitude when somebody tells you you can't. a absolute fear of failure, but not in the way that it stops you from doing it, in the way that it motivates you not to fail as much as possible. And blind ambition that you just cannot see any other way but success.
Oh, okay. Don't worry, guys. We're going to chop those out and we're going to put them on their own little graphic so that you guys can
Attitude,
share
fear,
those.
blind ambition.
Yeah, you can put that on your phone wallpaper. Do people still do that?
Yeah, I have it on my
Oh,
wall.
perfect.
Actually, attitude, fear, blind ambition. Yeah.
Okay, if you could give people any words of wisdom and you knew that they would take them to heart, what would it be?
In whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that you actually care about it and that you actually are part of it in a personal sort of way. Because what makes it successful is your ability to see the big picture. And if you don't care about it and you're not invested in it, you're never going to see the big picture.
Oh, I love that. If you could go to dinner with anybody dead or alive, who would you pick?
Honestly, I think I get to do that already. A lot of my customers, and especially like at NFR, you end up at dinner with a million people that you're working with in some capacity. I think I already get to do that, which is what I think I love about our portion of the industry is that we get to know people, especially when we do films and interviews and branding where we really get to know you. We get to know those people that become our heroes in the industry every day.
Are you not so proud of yourself that you have built a business that allows you to do that?
Yeah, I have moments where like I'll sit down and be like, wow, I am at a crazy table right now. Like if you just start thinking about the people that are around you. And I've had those moments, numerous times over the years. But yes, it's pretty incredible. I think Callie Adams with Montana Silversmith said this to me in a recent interview with her for Judy Wagner's documentary. We're doing a documentary on the now exiting VP of marketing for Montana Silversmith. It's called Nice Job Cowgirl. It'll be out later this year, but we were interviewing Callie Adams, who has worked for Judy for, I think, 18 or 19 years, something like that. And Callie said something to the effect of, you are so lucky to be able to get to know people in a way that nobody else does through your films. And it's really true because we get to sit down for an hour, 2 hours with people and just talk. And I've threatened to do an uncut podcast all the time of these interviews because usually we use like 2 to 5 minutes of these interviews. But we've talked for 1 to 2 hours. And so there's so much good in those that doesn't make it to the final cut that I'd love to share. But yeah, it's pretty incredible. Callie said it
Well,
best.
and you get to hang out with just what you said, like some of the brightest minds in the business. Like you literally get to be a fly on the wall in so many situations. But then at the same time, you're, an involved participant, which is just beyond. Mm-hmm. We really are lucky in this industry. There's no denying that.
Oh, yeah. Very lucky. Yeah. Incredible people.
Okay. What is one quote that you lead your life by?
I can't remember who said it now, but it's something to the effect of, "Dear Lord, please let me have the tenacity of a weed." And I think about that sometimes when we're going through a rough spot or we got too much on our plate or I'm running around for the 36th day in a row and haven't been home yet, doing laundry at some random hotel, just, "Dear Lord, let me have the tenacity of a weed."
Oh, I don't know that I've ever heard that, but man, that really resonates because those little things, you can't kill them. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does not matter if they are going to be there tomorrow.
Grow up in a sidewalk if you'll let them.
Oh, okay. Last question. Let's talk about your favorite things. Do you have a favorite book, podcast, program, product, or like a life hack maybe that you feel more people need to know about?
I'm an audiobook nerd, so I listen to audiobooks all the time. There's tons of them that I absolutely love. One of them is Creativity Inc. by Ed Cantrell. I hope I'm saying his last name correctly. Creativity Inc. is incredible. It's basically the company culture of Pixar and kind of that development. Very incredible. 10 out of 10 recommend, especially if you're in a creative business, but I think all businesses really. I always really love Know What You're For by Jeff Henderson. I just read that one here recently. That one's really good. And yeah, there's tons of them. I get my hands on any audiobook I can get my hands on, especially like driving and flying all over the place. I am always listening to an audiobook, but those two are probably my top favorite.
Oh, okay, guys, I wrote those down. I'll make sure that we link them in the show notes for you in case you do want to read, whether you're going to listen to them or you like an old school book. I'm excited to add those to my list, though.
Yeah, they're really good. I did the audiobook and then I bought the physical copy because I wanted it on my shelf. So like it has to be good for me to buy the physical copy. So
I will say, I don't want to get us down a rabbit hole because we've been here for a while, but I am that way. I listen to an audiobook and then I want the actual book so that I can go back and like highlight the good stuff. Although I don't necessarily know I'm going to highlight the good stuff because really, when am I going to actually refer back to it for that one thing that I highlighted? But that's my only complaint about audiobooks is I also want the hard copy for that reason.
yeah, for sure.
Oh, Natalie, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Before we go though, where can people go find you?
Sure. So McFarland Productions, we're pretty easy to find. Our handle on every social is at McFarland Productions. Our website's McFarlandProductions.com and info at McFarlandProductions.com, Natalie at McFarlandProductions.com. Pretty easy to remember.
Awesome. I don't want to give a plug here, but you can also find them on the directory as well. So
on the directory.
Which I will say, Natalie has been such a huge supporter of the West for years now. She is one of those people who is just continually cheering us on. She was one of the first people to join the directory. Like, I wish everybody had a Natalie in their corner because I am so thankful I have her in mind. For whatever reason, I don't know why I do, but I am ever grateful for that. So thank you, Natalie, for always being a huge supporter of mine and of the West. It really does mean more than you will know.
Thanks for building a platform that really means something, you know. And I think something that we love about Up the West is that we're interested in hiring people that already have a love for agriculture. And that is our number one requirement. I will forego any kind of, you know, graduate degree or anything like that for if you don't already love agriculture, you're probably not part of our team. So that's what Up the West, the biggest thing for us is that we know we're already getting the right people. It's now picking one.
Oh, well.
1 million applications.
Oh, that makes my heart sing. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for hanging out with us. If you guys want to work with McFarland Productions on any kind of a project, Natalie gave you all the info. You can go find them, reach out to them. They really are the best of the best, and you will not be disappointed. For all of you guys listening, thank you so much for being here. We will see you back here next week. If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.